Are you tired of blowing out your back at the bathtub while washing your dog or subjecting your canine to a water torture bath while leashed up to a post outside? Now there's a far more effective way to wash your pet while saving your back and keeping your dog happy. It's called Booster Bath, a portable bathtub on legs. Head over to boosterbath.com, one word, and pick one up. Available in 3 sizes, this tub system features a drain, a soap cubby, and water-controlling wand. This tub conveniently breaks down to be stored when not in use. Want to save 10% on your first-time purchase? Head over and sign up today to make that happen. Boosterbath.com. What's up, everyone? This is the Hard Parking Podcast, brought to you by Wright Honda out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I am your host, Jhae Finning. I recently did a video about the 1992 NSX-R, so go ahead and check that out on YouTube. I've also preliminarily set up an interview with a 1994 NSX-R owner. I hope to be bringing that to you hopefully sometime in March. I'll be hanging out with my title sponsor, Wright Honda, at Barrett-Jackson, getting the Phoenix Yellow, number 51 of 600, ready for the March 25th auction benefiting Reach Out Worldwide Foundation, founded by the late Paul Walker. Would like to get his younger brother, Cody Walker, on the podcast, so reach out and let me know if I should make a run at him. And he's been doing a lot to pick up the pieces left behind and, kind of keep Paul and the family name relevant in the car community through a ton of charity work. But I'm pretty sure he doesn't remember. But I did get an opportunity to meet him a couple of years ago in Monterey. I have Dub and Les Epps coming up to talk about their podcast called Goals and the Credit Mix. This is on the heels of the recent show Student Loan Forgiveness episode. If you haven't heard that episode, I urge you to go back and listen to it. And this is taking it a little bit further with more loan talk and how your credit can be adversely affected. And if so, how can you get it back on track? Spoiler alert, they can help you. If you also want to know how the 2021 Ford Escape handles in the snowy conditions of Lake Tahoe, Nevada, and California, the Rental Car of the Week segment is back with a special guest from a previous episode, so that is coming up. And of course, as always, we have the Q&A segment with Super Show fan Catherine Cox. Had a lot of fun. This past weekend, I did an event with new show sponsor RideSold.com. So RideSold, so what is that? That's a new online vehicle auction site. And I've been helping the owner out, a good friend of mine, kind of market the website and be kind of a consultant with ideas and marketing direction. So if you guys get an opportunity, make sure you please check out RideSold.com right now. There is a 2001 Acura NSX for sale. That's an NA2 NSX. Kind of like mine, but newer. So we did a charity event. This charity was a cruise which featured several million of dollars worth of cars, ranging back to some of the iconic 60s imports. And this was for Valleywise Healthcare's new Arizona Burn Center Foundation and project, building a new hospital. So hoping to bring on a guest or two in the near future directly involved with the Arizona Burn Foundation. So keep an eye on that. Before we get into all that, as always, a little society and culture. I want to talk about quality time, social media, and putting devices down. So my wife and I got into it the other day because I have this thing. When I watch TV with her, I want to watch TV. So I put my phone down and just put it away. And we do this thing where I'm like, get off your phone, you're always on your phone. And she's like, you're always on your phone. So it's like that Spider-Man meme with the two Spider-Men pointing at each other. But I know when to put my phone down. So if we're somewhere, we're walking, we're shopping, and I stop and text somebody, it's because someone asked me a question, usually it's business related. And then that's when she's like, well, see, you're always on your phone. But when we're at the house, and the whole family does this usually. My daughter will do it, my son will do it, my sister-in-law will do it. Everybody does it. And this is why I refuse to watch a serious movie with everybody over, like the whole family, because no one pays attention and I can't hear, and I'm hearing someone's TikTok go off, someone's Instagram story go off, some commercial ad go off, and it annoys the shit out of me. So I've told her multiple times, can you please put your phone away? You're always on your phone. And we watched The Social Dilemma. If you guys haven't seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix, I think it's called The Social Dilemma. Yeah, it's the one where they're talking about how social media and targeted marketing, it kind of subconsciously changes your way of thinking and you never realize it. But I had it the other day. I was just sick of it. Like I looked over and I saw she was texting someone and we were watching Punisher on Netflix. And like I value that time. And I feel like she doesn't. And she does, but I just feel like she doesn't because she can't do something simple like put her phone away. So I've even done stuff like hung my phone up in the kitchen. I've hung my phone up upstairs and come downstairs and just ready. Try to set an example. So we get into it, and I got fed up after debating her about it. And I said, you know what? I don't even want to watch this right now. I turned the TV off. I started going upstairs, and she called me a nasty name. And by the time I turned around, she already had the TV turned back on and her phone back in her hand getting ready to text. And I just stood there for a second. I came upstairs. But people, you have to find time because these devices they could be addicting. Screen time is addicting. And I sit on my phone a lot, but I don't sit on my phone a lot when I need to be doing stuff with other people or enjoying that time. I did this thing once. I was having lunch when I was traveling. I put my phone down. I was having pho. And I reached for my phone probably 20 times, and I caught myself. I was like, oh, I wonder what day it is, or what was on the calendar. Oh, phone. What time is it? Oh, phone. I wonder what phone. And I caught myself. You have to take time. And everyone tells you that. You have to unplug, but it seems like it's so much easier said than done. But you got to do it. And we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. But I like to enjoy other things too. So don't forget about the little things. Don't forget to enjoy. Don't forget to unplug. And if it's causing a problem in your relationship, like almost every couple I know, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever, one has a problem with the device. Not both. Sometimes both unplug, like they just don't care, but usually there's always one. And I would argue in this house, it's my wife. And she's going to tell you it's me. I'm here to tell you with all the busyness I do on social media and everything, I absolutely can put my phone down and I can watch a movie. I can binge watch a TV show, and I do not need to touch my phone. So think about that. If I can do it, you can do it. Coming up, Les and Dub. Time for the social media highlight of the week, sponsored by Kuya Automotive, currently specializing in new and used NSX parts. NSX owners, hurry up and head over to Kuya Auto. That's one word, KUYAAUTO.com, and inquire about group buy special pricing, or on Instagram at Kuya_automotive. That's Kuya Automotive, where Big Brother's looking out for you. Today's special guest, and I really do mean special, is Dub and Les Epps of the Goals Podcast. And Dub has the Credit Mix every Saturday, the Dub Podcast. The Goals Podcast is every other Tuesday. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure to be here, Jay.
I thought that today would be an excellent opportunity to get you guys on, introduce who you are to my fans, because you're doing some great things out there. And also, it's kind of overflow from the student loan forgiveness episode a few episodes ago, but you guys have been doing stuff together to kind of help people with their credit problems. So I thought it was kind of a natural thing, because at the end of the day, if I'm not making enough money and I have to decide if I'm going to spend pay my credit card bill, pay my mortgage, or pay my student loan, guess what's not getting paid right now? And even with that mindset, it's still going to put me in a really bad spot. With that being said, why don't you tell people a little bit about you guys?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Glad to be here with you, Jay. We love the show, Hard Parking Podcast, where you talk about everything from cars to non-cars. It's amazing. But yeah, I'm Dub. This is Les over here.
Hello.
And we have Goals Podcast, which is genuinely out actively lifting society, where we try to inspire, give a little information about positivity, and give that silver lining to life, especially when everything seems like it's going awry. And then I run my own podcast called The Credit Mix, where I talk about credit and financial stability and financial literacy, as well as bring on entrepreneur guests to inspire others. So that's what we have going on, man. Good to be here.
Okay, Les, that was the skinny, but I want you to just hit us with the heartfelt stuff, because as you're talking, I'm like, we all three have some things in common from our childhoods. We kind of all found each other through podcasting. So tell us a little bit about you guys and where you're from the family life. And I believe you guys, aren't you fostering now as well?
Yes, we are. So yeah, a little background on us. Dub and I, we are married. We've been together 18 years nearly. And we have 4 kids, and we currently foster 2 children who happen to be our niece and nephew. A little background on us. Let's see, where do I even start? Pretty much, I am somebody who grew up in the foster system and then later was adopted, had a lot of trials and tribulations growing up and into my early adulthood. And, it really messed with my mindset and things like that. I struggled with self-worth and stuff like that. But my overall goal in life has always just been to help people and to use, my story and my experiences to help people. And that's where, same with Dub, if you want to give a little bit of your background, but that's how we ended up coming together to start our Goals podcast, because we truly believe, like you said, Jhae, we all have stuff from our past and from growing up, and we all have a story, right? And our story, we don't understand the way it can impact other people out there. And so that's where we ended up starting Goals, was to be able to get our story out there in case it could help impact people and assist people and inspire people, most importantly, but also to highlight other people's stories, to show, we're all human and we all go through things and we can all persevere and push through it and come out stronger and better people.
Well said. Was it the moment that Dub wore your shorts that you knew he was going to be the man for the rest of your life?
Oh, you're going in, huh, Jhae? I see. Yes. So the background with Dub and I, it's a kind of a funny story. When we met, I actually had just been placed in a, I guess most people would consider almost like a halfway house, because I was homeless when I was pregnant with my son, and the county helped me get into a place where I rented a room and shared the common areas with others. Horrible place, to be honest. And it was, in the hood. And just so happened one day, shortly after I had my son, I went outside and I saw this guy sitting next door that I'd never seen before.
Hot guy.
Yes, this hot dude sitting on actually, he wasn't even my type, to be honest. But no, I saw this guy sitting over there and I knew everybody that lived there and I had, communicated with them and stuff. So I'm like, I asked one of the ladies that living in the house where I was like, who the heck is that? I've never seen him before. And honestly, you know what she said to me? She said, don't worry about it. He's mine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's what she told me. And so it was actually her and Dub's cousin, who was about 7 or 8 at the time, and just adored me. And she came running over like, Leslie. And I was like, who is that? And she's like, oh, that's my cousin. Come meet him. And she introduced him to me. And we ended up actually talking for hours that night. And we were inseparable ever since. And yes, the moment for me was one day when Dub had called me because he was going through some things and wanted to talk. And we had this special spot just in this beautiful area, an outlook type spot that we would go and talk. And so he asked me to meet him there. And we get there and the things you sit on had water on them and I didn't realize it. And I sat down and I had on some little shorts. Well, of course, I got my shorts all wet, and so Dub gave me his basketball shorts and put on my little bitty shorts, and that was the moment that I fell in love with him, because he walked around just goofing off and being silly. And
I was trying to catch a man.
Yeah, you got that curiosity out of the way.
Right, yep, and so...
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, so that was the moment I fell in love with him, absolutely, because he put himself out there and was just goofy and silly and didn't care what anybody thought, just to make me happy and smile. And he's been that way ever since, for the most part.
Appreciate that.
You guys have just introduced yourself to my listening audience. Tell us a little bit more about Goals, because I want my people who typically listen to this to have something different and inspirational to listen to outside of my award-winning voice, which I haven't actually won any awards, but I'm a man of the people. So let them know why Goals.
It is an award-winning voice, though. The very first time I heard your voice, I was like, oh my gosh.
That's a handsome voice. So Goals, it came about because we were in the quarantine and we were trying to figure out something to have impact on a lot of people. And we just felt like we were being really blessed as a family, as a group. And it was just, how do we reach out to a lot of people and make a difference and help other people feel what we felt and give to the world on a big platform? And so what we decided was, in order for us to be able to help others, that a podcast was perfect because we could do it on such a grandiose level and everybody was stuck in the house. So they're listening to different stuff. I mean, we heard Leslie's story. You know, I grew up in a home where there was drugs that was around. I saw abuse. And unfortunately, my mom was murdered when I was 17. So, you know, kind of going through that and then still coming out the other side, very positive and striving for better. We decided that having a podcast that spoke to people about positivity, how to turn your life around, how to stay strong and just do something positive with yourself is still attainable for whatever situation you're in. So that was kind of our idea with goals. And so we decided to turn goals into an acronym, which is genuinely out, actively lifting society, so that we could just build in that impact. So we not only do we try to have positive spins, inspirational stories, but we also incorporate our foundation where we try to do positive things in the neighborhood and bring light to a lot of things that are out there, but make it something positive. So that way, at the end of the day, it's good information, but it's something you can take and feel better as you go about your day.
It's not the typical listen to our story type of deal. You guys reach out with your guests and they share their stories, and you guys are active listeners and you ask the right questions. And every time I listen to it, it's like, it's basically telling me that I'm not alone, or telling somebody else that they're not alone in this journey, because you guys have a wide variety of guests and they're all really good. So I appreciate you guys for doing that.
Awesome, man. Thanks. We really appreciate that. So it's always good to know that we're doing something good. So we feel like, you know, hey, we got great stories, but that's not important. We're not here to boast about ourselves. We're here to kind of just share everybody's story and bring a light to, okay, you might be going through X. So here's someone who's going through that and here's how they came out of it. So definitely love it. And love your show, the way you bring it out, Jhae, because it's awesome.
I'll give you my Cash App afterwards. So I don't know if you guys are incredibly busy. So I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the student loan forgiveness episode, but I think one, if not both of you, at some point had to deal with that. Unless you can go first, where are you on the whole thought of any sort of student loan forgiveness program?
I am all for it, and I'm waiting for it, let me tell you. I am a very firm believer in universal needs. I believe in free healthcare and free education. So as soon as they roll out any type of student forgiveness, I think it will be phenomenal, to be honest. There are so many, especially Americans, that are suffering. You know, it's like when you have to choose between paying your mortgage or buying groceries or what have you, or paying your student loans, it's not okay with me. So I'm definitely a fan of student loan forgiveness for sure.
Yeah. We listened to the last episode that you had, and the couple of guests you had on. You had the one that was for student loan forgiveness and the gentleman that was not. I thought it was kind of interesting how they kind of, as the conversation evolved, the guy who was just adamantly against it started to see some of the things that happen within the cycle of student loans and how they become a bigger problem and impact on not only people, but now society, because we're seeing that it's the second or largest debt within our GDP that we currently have with student loans. So I'm for forgiveness, I believe. I don't know if we should just make it totally free, but the problem is that we're not taught when we're 18 years old how to handle these student loans. I mean, they'll give you a student loan, you know, but they won't let you go out and get a $50,000 car. So we kind of got to understand how the loan process actually works. And then, I mean, Leslie went through getting student loans and was using part of the money because we were financially strapped to kind of pay some of our bills. Well, that ended up being where she was capped at what she could end up utilizing her student loans for, and then had to pay out of pocket, which, you know, capped her on being able to go to school for a while. So that was kind of an issue because no one taught us about the proper way to do student loans, the proper way to go out here and just, you know, if you're not going to school for finance, unless you have parents that are specializing in that, a majority of the American society doesn't know how to take care of finances. And you don't expect an 18-year-old to have that burden at that age.
Right. It's not something as simple as saying, well, if you signed on the dotted line, you know what you signed up for. And at the same time, I don't think it's as simple as just saying they should just wipe the whole slate clean. And we have these conversations, and that's why we're having this conversation. And make no mistake, you guys are not two leeches of society in the family. Like, you've had very productive lives. So this isn't something that only, air quotes, poor people deal with. Like, you'd be, people out there with that mindset that just thinks that it's only focused to a certain slice of our society. Like, you never know what the person next to you is going through, and it's affecting everybody on some way. And so, and I said on the podcast, I think there should be some level of it. I don't know if you should. I mean, if I wake up tomorrow and find out they've wiped the whole slate clean, am I going to complain? Am I going to write to my congressman? No, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like, how is that affecting me? How is that affecting my family? Well, it's a positive. If someone else doesn't know how to deal with that, I can't help them. But
most definitely,
I think we're all kind of I think we're all on kind of the same page. And if you just think about it for a second, you can kind of understand how people get in the positions that they were when, they haven't paid it. So one thing that's changed since the last time I did that episode is they've pushed it on again, I think through maybe this September, Biden has. And so now, once again, we're presented with an opportunity of, we can pay on it, or we can not pay on it and wait till it's due and not have any sort of penalty. So I think my approach, now that I have a good job, again, a contract, is I'm going to pay on it. But I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and I said, we could take this opportunity. The hole is so big. It's almost like it's a microcosm of society, where it's like you grow up in this really crappy system, and maybe you're living in a trailer park. You don't know any other way. You can't even imagine any other way. It's always going to be there. Every day that trailer park is going to be there. Every day that hole is going to be there. And some people are able to take care of that. But I think it's one of those things where I looked at her and I said, hey, I think I want to pay while we can on it a little, but I want to take the rest of that money and put it somewhere where the money's going to work for us, whether it's continuing to pay down our credit cards even more, or if we pay extra on our whole life, or one of these other plans. And so that's where you guys come into this conversation even more so, is because, talk to us a little about the credit mix, because before you did this podcast, I know Les was hitting it really hard on social media about fixing people's credits. Why did you guys decide to jump into that field?
I'll let Leslie answer that one, because she started first, and it was my background, which is kind of funny. I grew up, and my entire career I spent in mortgage and finance, and then I switched to IT. So I'm going to let Leslie tell you how she fell into that.
Okay, so it's so funny that you use the example of the trailer. My early life, I came from a trailer park, and then foster care and adoption and all of that. So I got no financial literacy at all whatsoever, right? Like Deb was saying, student loans, I kind of totally screwed myself over there, things like that. And actually what happened was, my student loans hit my credit report one day. All of a sudden, I got this notice, my credit dropped 89 points. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And it was, the whole COVID thing and everything. This was a few months ago. And so a friend of mine had shared a post about credit repair, and I went to look into it. And I asked my friend, I said, is this person legit? Is this for real? Because I actually really need help trying to figure this out. And so I looked into it, I reached out to the person, and they showed me not only how I can get my credit fixed, I can get all these tools, these financial literacy tools, but I can also work from home helping other people get their credit right. And at the time, specifically, we had just moved back to Minnesota, and I was trying to decide what I was going to do for income. I wasn't sure yet. And so I was like, you know what? This is exactly what we've been looking for, is something for me to work at home, because I do have a disability that causes debilitating chronic pain daily. And so working, regular office jobs and stuff like I had done in the past are very difficult for me, pain-wise and physically. And so, I looked into it. I found out that the company that I was going to use for the credit, to repair my own credit, is an amazing company that's been around for a long time, has a good track record. So I decided to jump on it. I started with them, and my credit is not only going up, but I'm getting weekly pay, and I'm helping people, which is exactly what we're all about. So it's been just phenomenal, honestly, for me, because I never actually thought I would be able to get paid to help people. My degrees are in social work, psychology, sociology. And so it's like that's what I want to do. But all of those jobs are, if you don't have a certain level degree, you're going to get in entry level. The pay is not going to be great, and you're going to be stuck in this cycle. And so I honestly really just thought that I can help people through our foundation and through all the things I do on my own personally, but I'll never be able to make income doing it. And then the opportunity dropped in my lap. Like I said, I jumped on it, and the rest is history. I'm loving it. I'm helping people every single day to build their credit. I have goals of getting at least 100 people into homes this year. And it's just a phenomenal program we're with, and I love it.
So, see, you kind of touched on something there, and it all started with your student loans.
Yes.
So let's say you got one income between the two of you, and you pay your mortgage, you pay your car note that got you there, you pay your credit card, or you pay your student loans. I think most Americans who are in that position aren't going to pay their student loans.
And that's exactly,
just because.
That's where I was. It was like, that was the one thing and that's why it hit my credit, because I'm like, the other stuff, I feel like the impact is worse or something. I don't know what it is why we choose the student loans not to pay, but that's exactly.
Well, yeah. And what the problem with not paying the student loans while you're in school is, depending on if it's not a federal student loan and it's a private student loan, the interest accrues while you're in school. So when it finally hits your credit report, it's more than you borrowed. So it actually, it's negatively impacting you. So, but what you're getting back to what you're saying about right now, people choosing what to pay, especially when income could be very tight. It's the thing that the legislation is putting in effect makes it so there's no interest. So the money's just sitting there. So if you choose something not to pay, definitely don't pay the student loan, because it's not hurting you, because there's no interest being gained on top of what you currently have. But
correct.
If you have extra money, put it towards the student loan first, because what you're doing is you're paying down the principal more. So that gets your actual bills paid off a lot faster than if you were to just go pay something where you got a bunch of interest on, so you can literally have 100% of your amount go to paying down your student loans. It's like getting a credit card and has 0% interest. A lot of times people try to pay that off super fast so they don't have to pay the interest on it when it hits in 6 or 12 months when they first get the card. It's kind of the same thing with the student loans. If you have the extra, put something on it. If you don't have, say your payment's $500 and you don't feel like paying the full $500, pay $200, because the $200 is going to pay the principal down immediately.
It's the amortization schedule, right?
Exactly.
It's like when you look at your car note, your first few payments, your first couple of years, all you're basically paying is interest and a little bit. And on the back end of that, you're paying most of the principal and just a little bit of interest. Yep. And so I think that, especially Les, you said some of the career, the degrees, the education level you have, there's a lot of jobs where the career pay is not enough to pay off your student loans and take care of your family. And I think, that's kind of the situation that people find themselves in.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. And then a lot of times people can't even go and buy a home because the student loans are just as much as the house payment would be, unfortunately.
Yeah, and people are paying on student loans well back. There's people that they get those degrees, they get the student loans, they go into their career field, and they retire, and they've still got student loans they're paying on because it's, so it's a vicious cycle, to be honest.
I think I'm supposed to be like 60 by the time I pay mine off.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I see it. Well, the problem
Something
too is
crazy.
It's this vicious cycle, because in the U.S. we don't have student loans just to pay for. It's like a profit. It's a huge profit that the system is paying. So if you look at what school cost, 10, 15 years ago, yeah, there's inflation, but the increase in the cost of school in that last 10 to 15, even 20 years has climbed way higher than what traditional inflation has. So that's kind of a big issue when you have all these kids starting to go to school, and now they're going to a school where they're paying all these exorbitant amount of costs just to get the education that isn't even going to add up, like you said, when you go out into the workforce, just because these institutions are not made just to help with education. They're made for profit. So the more money they can try to get, the more value they have.
So knowing what you both know about just your financial background, unless you're dealing with going around and helping people, and now both of you are helping people fix their credit, how would you solve, what would you throw? What sort of solution do you think you'd throw at that? Because I think with Biden, they're saying up to 10,000. Somewhere else, somebody that didn't get elected wanted to just forgive the whole thing, which I think is a terrible move. But, you know, what approach would you have? And then I have some car questions for you guys too, because I want to buy a new car.
Well, I'll go first on this one. For me, I would definitely not do a full payoff, because what happens if you give loan forgiveness for the entire amount of everybody's student loans, it's got to come out somewhere. So at some point, we're going to end up getting that money taken out somewhere. Either you're going to get, what they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, well, the $100,000 in student loans is now your income. And so now you're going to have to pay taxes on that. And then people aren't going to be able to afford all the taxes on that, because that could be, $20,000. You could be paying taxes on the student loan forgiveness you did for the next 10, 15 years and not receive any type of income tax return or anything like that, just based on that alone. And then let's not talk about the fact that if you have late payments on that and the high penalties that go into having to pay taxes for something, so to the government. So when you owe the IRS and you don't make the payments on time, the fees they're tremendous. So I'm not necessarily a fan of a full, some type of full forgiveness, but I would be a fan of, the 10,000 or even just a clean slate of like 50% of balance owed, depending on your degree. So if you went to school for a master's, you get X amount of dollars for that degree, up to 50% of what it is, versus someone who went to school for an associate's and they only spent, 10,000, 15,000. They're going to get their whole thing wiped out. So I would be a fan of if we were able to do something like a cap, depending on the degree you got, or a cap if you didn't even get a degree, up to 50% of what it is.
Do you think it should be capped by finances?
Yeah, definitely. So kind of a mix. So you kind of look at the finance piece. It kind of, somebody who's an economist is going to have to come up with some fancy equation. But you take whatever degree level they're at, and however much they had to, not even taking into the account of each school, you just take an average of what it costs to go to school. And you say, okay, if you got X degree, here's the max payout that we would do, up to 50% of what you owe.
And then based on their current income and all of that.
No, not even income, just based on you went to school, and that's it.
Well, that's what I was getting at, Les, is, based on because we haven't always been here, but I think we're considered upper middle class between my wife and I, especially when I have a job. Because I think one of the proposals was, based on your income level.
Yeah, I think there was one for that.
Yep, I absolutely think it should be based on your income level. And then as far as what I would advise people to do, especially in the meantime while COVID's going on and they are providing a lot of options, they're providing forbearances, they're providing the zero interest, stuff like that. So what I advise is if you're able to pay on them. Well, there's zero interest and it can go to your principal. If you can't pay it all, like Deb said, pay what you can until, we don't know what's going to happen. So keep, do what you can if you're able to. If you're not able to, absolutely utilize the services. Contact them. Let them know I'm out of work. The pandemic, this, that, whatever the reasoning is that you're struggling to pay your loans. Communicate. And any creditor you're dealing with at all whatsoever, you want to open that communication if you're struggling to pay your bills. So
don't cold turkey.
Yep, exactly. Don't just, not pay anything, not tell anybody, not say anything. Communicate, work out a plan with your student loan lender and make sure it's, feasible for you and do what you can.
So it sounds like you're both saying the same thing, and yeah, you're right. Hit that principal. I'm going to take advantage of that for sure.
For sure.
So,
yeah. And the thing is, with student loans, you can get those removed from your credit report, even when you still owe on them. With my service, we get those removed. You can get them so they're at least not affecting your credit, but you do still owe your debt, and you do still have to pay your bills.
We haven't had a car note in a while. And our newest car is a 2011 Audi with like 160,000 miles on it. My Infiniti has like 180,000 miles on it. My other car has like 140,000 miles on it. So this year, it's like I really want to get a new car, but I feel like I'm crazy because that's when you haven't had a car note for so long. Like I don't know if that's really necessarily the best idea, and I'm not asking you to tell me if it's a good idea or not because you're probably going to tell me it's a terrible idea. Let's take the car equation out of it. So a lot of times when we go to buy anything, and we can say at the big box store, right? So do you want 6 months, no interest? Do you want, or do you want, 5% off your purchase? Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want 12 months, 24 months? So it's kind of a thing when we really can't afford things that we want the most is we try to stretch them out as far as possible. So with cars, you can get the 6-year, 7-year. There's also lenders out there for certain cars where you can get like 12 and 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Does that sounds like a terrible idea?
I haven't heard that one. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's a Woodside credit for high-end exotics and just expensive collectibles where I think with the percentage rate, I think is pretty high. I want to say it's like 6 or 7%, like if everybody else is at 3% or 2% or 1%, to where now I'm signing up for something for 15 years and paying, make up a number here, $1,100 a month for one car instead of taking a normal thing and putting like every single penny I have as a down payment. And then I'm broke.
Right. I was going to say that 15 years at $1,100, that's a house.
So,
and then some. You're right. That is a house, actually.
Right?
The nice thing about that, though, is so you're probably going to want to talk to an accountant or a car broker if you're buying some type of lavish vehicle like that, because if you're doing a 10, 15-year loan and it's an exotic car, you better be buying something that's going to be worth more when you're done paying it.
Right, not depreciate.
Yeah. So that's the thing about cars is when we're buying assets, we want to buy assets that are going to go up in profitability, or you want to try and get it paid off as quickly as possible. So if you get like a car, like you just want to go out and get a regular old rust bucket for yourself, you're better off buying it and putting, if you have to put a little bit more down, that's fine. But to get your payment lower or, to get the shortest loan amount. So if you're comfortable with a little bit larger payment, be comfortable with that. As long as it's within reason, because the quicker you can pay it off, being that it's a liability that's going to go down in value, the better off you are, because you'll be able to still utilize the value that's left in the car the quicker you pay it off, versus having a car that you pay off and then it's worth $1,000, $2,000 when you're done paying for it.
Yeah, and let's be realistic about it. That vehicles are one of those things that immediately lose value as soon as you pull off the lot. Like most people understand that, or they need to understand that. So one of the things I was reading from a lot of the wealthy people, because we're raised thinking, okay, when I get a lot of money, I'm going to buy my mama a house, pay cash for it. I'm going to buy all these cars. I'm going to pay cash for it. So I don't have to worry about car payments. But with big purchases like a car, not necessarily a house, but a car, they say that they don't ever actually pay cash. They finance them, and then when they get sick of them, they dump them on the secondhand market and take a minimal loss. Have you guys heard of that approach?
Yeah, definitely. So a couple of different ways they do that is, one, if they are going to buy it, they're not paying cash for it. They're going to get some type of loan and utilize the bank's money versus their own money, because they want to use their money to make more money for them.
Property,
exactly,
investments.
But if you notice, a lot of actual people who buy cars that have wealth are leasing. They're not even buying the car because their accountants are telling them, hey, this is a depreciating asset, which is something we don't know about. So that's what I was talking about earlier, where it loses money. So anything that loses money, they're not trying to hold on to. So they'll lease it and get out of it before it gets, to that point where it's lopsided on what would be owed versus what the value actually is. And what they do is they utilize, so if they have a house, they'll pay down that house a little bit on value on the mortgage and take cash out of the home to go buy something else versus using the cash that they currently have, because they want that money to work for them and continue to build wealth. But when they,
so I think that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, definitely. The big thing that the wealthy do is they use their credit to buy assets that add more value. They're not buying just like, toys, boats and stuff like that. What they're doing is they're going to take out a loan to go throw some money into some stocks or buy an investment property that they have, something that's going to give them more money back.
Yep, it's about leveraging other people's money.
Yep.
To make you money. Absolutely.
But for the little guys like us, we got to go get loans for cars and stuff like that. But if you have the opportunity to lease, it's a better option for you because then you get a fancier car.
Don't say little guy. Anybody can go lease. Don't say that. We could
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm a little guy too, but some of these lease, I look at the numbers on every commercial and it's like, get this for just $399 a month, and in fine print it's like $4,500 down with grade A credit, which kind of brings it full circle. You fix your stuff because you can have a lot of money and shit credit. Yeah. And unless you're going to go in there with a big suitcase of cash, you better work on your credit.
Exactly.
Les, what would you say to the person who says, well, my credit's already screwed up, like, they can't make it any worse?
Okay, but you have the option to make it better. How long have you been living with bad credit? Why would you not want to take an opportunity to get your buying power back? Because the thing is, another thing we're not taught is whether it's bad credit or no credit, because that's a huge thing people don't understand. And I'll give a quick credit tip. Don't pay off your debts. As far as credit cards, things like that, never pay them off all the way, because now you have no positive lines of credit on your credit report. So that's just a quick tip. But that's the thing is, if you've been living with terrible credit and you're content living that lifestyle where you have absolutely no buying power, you need a cosigner for a car, you can't get into a house, you need a cosigner for rent, or you're having to pay double, triple deposits to get into a place. If you're happy and content with that, hey, all for it, do your thing. However, if your credit is messed up and it's been that way for a long time and you're fed up with that and you want to do something about it, do something about it. It takes time and it takes action, but it took that to get yourself into that hole. Why, if you in any way want to better your life, I don't know why somebody would not want to improve their credit, because your credit, trust me, having excellent credit, having an 800, 750, 800, 850 credit score talks a lot more than having $100,000, to be honest.
Do you guys know anybody that they can reach out to?
Right here.
Exactly. Tell them how they can reach you.
Yes, you guys can reach me. I'm on Facebook as Leslie Epps. You can also find me on Instagram as Miss Leslie Epps. You can call me, text me, 612-916-5871. Just text me credit and I'll help you out. I'll show you our services. The amazing thing with our service is we're not just going to restore your credit. We're going to give you all the tools to get your credit where you want it to be and maintain it for life. So definitely hit me up or Dub at the Credit Mix.
That Credit Mix drops every Saturday, so you guys can learn a little bit about some credit success stories.
Yep, we give out tips all the time as well. If you follow us on our social media, there's all sorts of tips that we put out there for you guys as well.
If you guys want to get a hold of me, it's The Credit Mix on IG. That's THEE Credit Mix. And you can find me on IG. You can find me on Facebook as well. If you want to reach out to me personally, it's at Mr. Levi Epps on Instagram. Or you can find me on Facebook by searching Levi like the jeans and Epps like Mike Epps. No relation, unfortunately.
Or Omar Epps, man. Don't forget about Omar Epps.
He always leaves them out. He always goes to Mike. I'm like, Omar was my guy.
Hey, I got to stand up for the light skins.
Oh, hello, love and basketball. Come on now.
No, definitely Omar Epps.
Right?
I like the comedians. I'm a comedian myself.
I'm going to play a cricket sound on that.
Perfect.
I want to thank Les and Dub of the Goals Podcast and the Credit Mix for coming on. I've been friends with them for a while through these podcasting groups, but we've never actually had a good conversation, and wanted to get them on and talk about that stuff, because all that stuff, it's very important. Absolutely. And they said something, and going into it, my mindset was, you know what? Now that because I don't want to be a hypocrite. Now that I'm gainfully employed, I'm going to pay all my student loans, even if they're not due, but I was only going to pay a little bit. And they urged me, they said, hey, if you can, make your whole payment, because that is 100% going toward the principal, and they're right. So I think I'm going to do at least 50%. But I'm not going to buy anything. I'm going to put the money toward things that should be able to help make me money back. And in the end, if everything works out, I'll be able to pay my student loans off earlier. I want to buy some land. Flip some land. Flip some land outside of Phoenix. I got some swampland in Arizona to sell you guys if you're interested. Anyone interested? No? All right. Well, it's time for the rental car of the week, sponsored by Higher Quality Detail out of Tempe, Arizona. Specializes in premium vehicle protection solutions and cosmetic customizations as your one-stop shop, ranging from basic detailing options through ceramic coating, paint correction, protection films, and more. Visit Ceramic Pro Arizona, one word, on Instagram, or Higher Quality Detail, also one word, HYER, Quality Detail online, and get started looking your best today. Today's rental car is not mine, but I rode in it. Alex, star of the Chick Cars and Chick Drinks episode. Welcome back to the show.
Hey.
Hey. So we're talking about this Ford Escape that you guys rented, and I spent all weekend riding around in the back seat of.
Yeah. I believe it was a 2021 Ford Escape.
It's a titanium edition. Yes.
Yeah, titanium edition. Is that a thing, or did they just put titanium on all of them? I'm not sure.
Well, there's a vibranium edition. Yeah, I don't know. That's the only picture I took, was literally when we gassed up before we got back to the airport. So I made sure I have titanium edition. I'm zooming in here. EcoBoost all-wheel drive.
Yeah, so the primary reason we got this car is because the lady at the rental car counter guilted us into it. She said that there was potential we would be stopped going up the pass from Reno to Tahoe and would absolutely need all-wheel drive if we were going to be doing that. Otherwise, I think we probably would have been driving a Camry, but we needed all-wheel drive. There wasn't much to choose from, so we ended up with this lovely bright blue Ford Escape titanium.
Not sure we would have made it up and down that driveway of the place we were staying at without all-wheel drive.
It was a little treacherous. It definitely needed the shoveling and the salt.
Because we were lucky that weekend where we seemed to have missed the heavy pour in the early morning and overnight, but I could see a scenario where we absolutely needed the all-wheel drive, and we utilized it. So we had this titanium trim, like you said. So I'm looking on Edmunds.com, and this is the most expensive package, $37,000. Did it feel like you were driving a $37,000 SUV? Like, what did you like about it?
To be honest with you, I'm surprised that it's tagged at $37,000. That seems excessive just based on the car. I didn't love the car. The rear end of it was kind of nice looking. It's got like nice modern taillights, good lines. The badging is fairly attractive. It had dual exhaust pipes, good for symmetry, but the front end just looks like it was hit with an ugly stick. And I don't know what it is, but I just never really like 4-cylinder SUVs for some reason. Just doesn't really ever feel like there's enough power there.
Like, right? Like if you really needed them, like if you really, really needed them, maybe you couldn't really rely on them.
Yeah. It just feels like a good city car. It feels like a good city vehicle if you just need to get to the grocery store and there's a little bit of snow on the ground. It definitely doesn't feel like a mountain faring vehicle at all. But we did it.
Were you driving with confidence, or was there ever a point? Because I spent the whole time, in the back fighting with the seatbelt that kept like flying out of the belt holder thing. So I would always have to reach back and kind of tempt almost pulling my rotator out to grab the seatbelt. But from the front, did it always feel comfortable, or was there ever a time up front where you're kind of like, I don't know?
Yeah. So I guess one of the things that I liked about it was it had these selectable, I don't know what you would call it, selectable like drive modes.
Sure.
There were like 6 of them. One of them was slippery, and another one was like excessive snow or something. I think I turned it on slippery for the way down the mountain. On the way up, when we were on our way to Tahoe, 0 problems at all. I don't think we really even saw snow on the road.
No.
But on the way back to the airport, on the way back to Reno, there were a couple moments where we were going down where I wasn't scared, but I was a little nervous. I was like, this could get a little dicey.
My observations from the back seat is you were driving really careful on our way back to Reno. And on the way to Tahoe, you were driving like a madman. And so I had to take out my C-band wristbands and stick them on. And I wasn't right the whole weekend.
Yeah, I was definitely a little bit more apprehensive going back to Reno. There was a little bit more snow on the ground, and we were going downhill versus uphill, so it was a little more sketchy.
I thought that for this, and it could just be a titanium package thing, but I'm really big on the little things. And so one of the little things that I noticed was it has the high intensity discharge headlights, the HIDs, and they're still releasing SUVs today. So for example, the 2020 Tahoe that I had a few months ago still has the regular halogen projectors. And I do not know how any company could have a car of that class, of that cost, without HID. So I was surprised that this little thing had the quality headlights, and also saw the full digital display, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, like the instrument cluster, right?
Yeah,
that's one of the things I was gonna. Yeah, it's one of the things I was gonna point out about things I liked about it was the instrument display was beautiful. They did a killer job with it. I was trying to decide actually if it was kind of like a novelty, like the way that the graphics changed whenever you change driving modes.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if I loved that because it was new, or if if I actually owned the car, if 6 months in, I would just, I'd get tired of it. But it was definitely interesting and neat. I did appreciate that about it for sure. I also kind of liked the dial, to change gears. The dial in the center console was interesting. I will say though that I'm used to resting my hand on an actual shifter while I drive. I don't know, for whatever reason, I like to have my hand on the shifter, even if it's an automatic.
Sure.
So not having something there to rest my hand on, I always felt like I was reaching for something that didn't exist, which was a little weird.
So a lot of vehicles actually have that, but I know what you mean, because once you get used to it, did you find yourself reaching down the very first time you got in you have a Murano?
Yep.
Did you find yourself reaching down the very first time?
Yeah. So the Murano actually still has a stick to pull from park to drive.
Okay, so when you first got in the Escape, did you find yourself reaching for the stick? Did you reach for the stick, Alex?
I was reaching for the stick more than I would like to admit, sadly.
I got it. So this thing, the pros of this thing, it's roomy and comfortable seating. From the back seat, it was roomy. I don't know how you felt in the front. The smooth ride quality, not too bad, except for I was nauseous half the time. And some of the cons that they said, I'm going off of Edmunds, where it came in at a 7.7 out of 10. The transmission abrupt shift, did you notice that? And lackluster handling.
The transmission never bugged me. I can't say I felt one way or another about it. It didn't stand out either way. The handling was, with no snow on the road, it was fine. It didn't bother me. On the way down the mountain, when there was a little bit of snow, I don't know if it was just me being overly apprehensive or actual scary road conditions. But yeah, the way down the mountain, like I said before, was a little scary.
So we'll come to the questions of, number one, is this a vehicle that you could see yourself potentially, would you ever consider buying this vehicle to replace your Murano if the opportunity came and it was just cheap enough?
Never. I would never consider buying that car.
Would you rent this vehicle again if it was available and you were like, hey, I'm going to get me a little compact SUV? So its competitors are the Honda CR-V that you cannot rent, and a Toyota RAV4, which I don't know if you can. I've never seen a Toyota RAV4 for rental, but I know Toyota rents vehicles. So those are the two primary competitors. Would you rent this again if those two were out there?
When we rented the Escape, they actually put us in a Mazda CX-5 first. And I liked the fit and finish of that CX-5. It felt better. It looks better on the outside to me, and it felt better on the inside. They had sprayed some sort of outrageous air freshener all over the inside of that car, and it was giving us headaches. So we gave it back to them and ended up with the Escape.
The consolation prize.
It was like a consolation prize. I would have probably rather, all things being equal, I would have rather had the CX-5, but gun to my head, I need an SUV to make it up the mountain. Would I take another Escape? Sure.
Because it's tried and true. You've done it before.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for joining this segment for the rental car of the week. You are a superstar.
Okay.
Thank you, Alex, for coming on the show. You can follow him on Instagram at alex.gumina. As I mentioned in the opening, I did an event with Ride Sold, and Ford brought a Ford Mustang Mach E, which I did not mention, to the Ritz-Carlton outside of Tucson to show it off. That's where we were staying. It was my first time seeing it in person, and I actually like it. Like, I liked it in pictures, but it's a little bigger than I thought in some of the pictures. In person, it's a little bigger. It's an impressive-looking vehicle. I think the guy said the range was like 300 and something miles, and the interior was like baseball leathery, like the glove with the little holes in it. I don't know. Golf glove leather. I don't know. What are we calling that? But there was one problem with it. So there's two kinds of leather in this world for car interiors. There's the stuff that smells like a new car and you can't get enough of it. And there's the shit that makes your car sick. I was always one of those kids that would get car sick, get motion sickness, and it went away for a long time. In the past few years, it started to come back where sometimes I have to wear those little C-bands that you put around your wrist to kind of help control your nausea. And as soon as I was snooping around in this Mustang Mach E, that whiff of that leather hit me, and it immediately took me back to when I was like 6 years old riding in the back of my mother's car. I would get car sick all the time. She'd give me Dramamine, I'd fall asleep and wake up when we got to where we're going. And man, that leather just took me right there. And I hate that shit. I've had new rental cars that smell like that, and I'm like, makes me nauseous, man. I don't know what it is. So if you know what the difference is and why it does that, let me know. 'Cause that shit stinks. But other than that interior looked really good. If I ever get back traveling to work, though, it would be nice to rent one, except for, at least so far, I have yet to come across any EV rentals, electronic vehicles, for those of you not following along close enough. And on this cruise, there are also a couple Ford Bronco Sports. And that thing was larger than it looks in photos, too. I thought it was the size of like an old Jeep Compass or whatever, but it's actually visibly larger. And there's even another one coming out that's even larger than that. So that was cool. I didn't really ask the guy to open the door and let me look around inside. And I figured eventually they'll be everywhere on the road. And coming up, Q&A with Catherine Cox. It's time for the Q&A segment, sponsored by NSX Channel on Instagram, your number one source of NSX content. I want to thank Nico and the NSX Channel for being a part of this show. This is their last week sponsoring the show. So if you want to reach out and be a sponsor of the Q&A segment, hit us up. Find me on Instagram, which you already know, NA2NSX, JTravels, JHA_travels, or shoot me an email at HardParkingPodcast@gmail.com, which nobody will do because to this date, I've received only one email. Shout out to John Chu. Today, I brought a guest on, super fan, friend of mine, Catherine Cox, who usually asks all the good questions, but you didn't ask a question this week, which is why I have you on the show.
Oh, darn. I got to keep up on those questions.
Yeah, so this time I asked it on Hard Parking Violations, the Facebook page, the group that I'm trying to get everybody to join.
I'm terrible about Facebook.
As my mother-in-law calls it, Facebook.
If only it were Faye.
If it were Faye. So, you ready to get rolling?
I am.
All right. So, the first question, Ronald McBean asks, I don't quite understand what he means by this. I can only guess, and maybe you would because you're a little smarter. Is the new BMW design language actually good?
Is the new BMW language
design language actually good?
Design language.
When I hear anything language, I think of programming.
So do I.
So maybe he's saying the new, and the hardcore car people, the engineers, the designers are probably like, don't you guys fucking know? But I'm thinking there's a lot of controversy with the giant grills of the current or the 2022 model BMWs moving forward. So I think that's what he's talking about. Have you seen those? You know what he's talking about?
I was wondering if he was talking about the basically iDrive for BMW. Is he talking about that? Maybe.
Is that a thing? Is that new?
So you can actually change the language. Like, is he talking about actual language? That's the question. It's iDrive, and you can actually change the language on your control and your displays. So
probably not.
Probably not.
You know what? Let me take a time out and look this up. Here we go. Ultimate BMW explains thinking behind controversial design language. Opinion: BMW's design language is a mess, according to the Drive Tribe. The truth about BMW's aligned. So this is a thing going back 2019. So yeah, I'm looking
Like
at these
the way
giant
that it
grills.
looks?
Yeah, they just look crazy.
It looks like a Chrysler almost.
Looks like a Chrysler prototype.
Yeah, some of these look really weird.
Yeah. So what do I think about that?
And that one looks like that Julia or whatever. Or how do you say that?
The Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, it does.
I've said once before, because BMW, they sell a lot of vehicles.
Yeah.
But while I appreciate them, like Maui Mike's BMW, his M2 is sweet. Like the current gen and going back a few years, they always look great on the road. They always have a nice stance. But I'm not really in the market for a BMW, so I don't really care that the grills are giant. They look kind of funny, but it doesn't really affect my day-to-day thought process. So I guess my opinion of that is it actually good? I don't know what that even means.
I think that's aesthetically, I mean,
it's an aesthetics thing.
You, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So depending on, is that something that you like and that you think looks really, like pleasing, aesthetically pleasing? Is that a kind of vehicle that you would want to buy? Or does it actually do anything? Is it functional? Does it bring in more air and therefore, allow for something, for it to breathe better, right? The car to breathe better versus a smaller grill. But, honestly, when you're looking at it, if you're going to look at a car, especially something like a BMW where you're spending a lot of money, you're going to want to like the way it looks too.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's just, it's probably not throwing any big numbers in the wind tunnel. So moving on to the next question by John Chu, who is the only person who's ever written the podcast. Who is the next car manufacturer that I'm paraphrasing this because this question was kind of long. Who is the next car manufacturer that will recover from the brink and be a world beater again? AKA, who's the next to need a bailout? Now, I don't really follow who's struggling and who's not struggling because when a car maker struggles, somebody else usually comes in and buys at least 50% of it and keeps them afloat. Like Lamborghini and Range Rover with Ford and all these other companies that they're all owned partially by, or even by majority of someone else you had no idea. So in knowing that.
No, that is true. That is very true.
So I don't really know. I looked into it just a little bit. Couldn't really find anything that wasn't
like maybe Subaru had a pretty steep drop in sales, but
everybody did.
Everybody suffered from 2020. So,
but every kid 17 to 21 wants a Subi.
Yeah. True.
They come with a free vape.
Nuh-uh, they do not.
No, they don't. They just.
I almost believe you there because I'm like, no.
Because every car meet, you see a bunch of people leaned up against their Subis vaping that, and
their vapes.
Yep, their BRZs.
Yes.
I'm gonna say, if I were to just take a wild guess, it's somebody that would probably be struggling. I'm gonna say Aston Martin always seems to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, because they're very specific, and I haven't seen any really good Bond movies with an Aston Martin lately.
It's weird that the newer ones just look kind of like they redesigned them like a year or two ago, and I'm not quite sure I like them.
What about Porsche?
So they were in trouble last year, sales like everybody else, but that was actually the example that John Chu used, that Porsche was on the brink and someone came in and bailed them out. Because outside of their 911 sales, I mean, they have the Macan or Macan and then the Cayenne, right? That's all they have. Or the Panamera. That's they have the hybrid now, like the 718.
So I think that if car company has at least an idea or a car in that hybrid or electric, that they're going to be placing themselves in a better position just simply because that's the way that things are trending currently.
Yeah.
So if they don't, maybe some of, Cadillac always goes back and forth, you know what I mean? Like, it's a specific niche market, but it's also back to, it's GM. And so even if Cadillac struggles a little bit, then you have your GM product that can come along.
Right. It's protected by the umbrella.
Right.
So Andy Emhoff of the Horsepower Hour which I was a guest on their podcast. So it's Andy and Coy Sinclair, Andy Imhoff. This last Sunday we recorded and we went like an hour and 45 minutes, but we had a lot of fun. They have a YouTube page and like I said, the Horsepower Hour podcast, a lot of fun. So he asks, in this era, is there room for a new automotive manufacturer in the mid-size sedan sector?
Oh, you mean like the new, what is the one that they're building in Casa Grande?
That's got to be it. Because when he asked this question, I was like, he has to be specifically referring to somebody because it's a new automotive manufacturer.
It is. It is. Actually, they had to postpone the release of their first vehicle because of COVID causing issues with building and everything else. But
I'm pulling up right now. Is it Lucid?
I'm trying to think. Lucid, that's it. Lucid Motors.
Motors.
They're super high end.
They're EVs
right now. They're EVs. They're super high end. They're meant to be like a almost higher end, more luxurious vehicle than the Teslas. And then they're going to have a lower end car later, but they're selling the top, like their highest end car first.
Okay.
And they actually have people that have, have reserved cars. So they have orders in, and they're building a manufacturing plant in Casa Grande.
Is it Casa Grande or Casa Grande? I don't know.
Grande.
I know it's Porsche.
Grande.
Yeah, I know it's Porsche. So it's Casa Grande.
Yeah, the big house.
I'm going to go ahead and say yes, because if reading what we're reading, they're an EV vehicle only. Well, that's where the world is headed. The world's been there for a while, but it's still an internal combustion dominated street everywhere you go.
Correct.
Except for
England.
I was going to say, except for England and like Northern California.
True, California.
But everywhere else, right? So I'm going to say that, only because of that. Now, if there were just a new car manufacturer making the internal combustion and all they made were sedans, then no, because everybody wants an SUV.
Right.
Or a micronized car.
But these EVs lend themselves well to a sedan kind of thing. And plus, I don't know, and again, this is just like I think personal preference, but to me, like SUVs are great, but like going out to a nice dinner or going someplace, like maybe events and things like that, you want to have a sedan. You want to have that, like that kind of luxurious vehicle look, either that or a
corner office car. Yeah, something really cool or something really luxurious.
Exactly.
Yeah, and people are so used to looking at Teslas.
You're like, oh wow,
Right, you pull up and remember when the Fisker Karma was out, and the original one. It's like when you see one, you're like, holy cow, what is that?
What's that?
And it's this super stretched, swooping aerodynamic thing, Paris, I'm saving Paris's question for another podcast episode because I hate if you could choose this, which would you pick and why? Questions. This is an easy one. Friend of the show, friend of ours, Wes Tankersley asks, so when it comes down to beer, IPA or porter?
Porter.
Yeah, porter. I took a break from IPAs for a long time. I'm back in them a little bit.
Yeah.
Indian Pale Ales and American Pale Ales, but a good porter I'm going to take every time.
I'll take a hazy IPA, but honestly, porters, because I like that rich flavor. I like that. I don't know. I like that extra kick that it has.
You're a drunk.
I am.
Philip Travers asks, is our economy ready for digital currency? And this is a good question. And I'm going to say this is a good question because in an upcoming episode, in S Extra, Chris Cutt wants to come on and talk about Bitcoin. So he did the video where he says, I wasted $1.8 million in Bitcoin on old Hondas. So he wants to come on. He said he wants to come on and debate me about it because I told him I'm not really a crypto person, but I don't really have anything to debate with. I just don't like putting my money in things I don't understand.
Right.
But once
I was going to say,
go ahead.
I don't really know are we ready for it? No, we're not ready for it because not enough people understand the concept of it. But are we headed that direction? Probably. And part of that is because I know from our business aspect, from where I work, we are probably the slowest to adapt to anything. We have old equipment. I mean, we're pretty slow to adapt to things. But when it comes to payments, we have to adapt quicker because we're talking on an international basis, right? So we have to be able to take payments from anywhere in the world. And one of the things that we have to be prepared for are different methods of paying, including the, buy something really expensive and pay it off in payments kind of thing, like the Afterpays and the Affirm. And I can't even think.
I've tested every single one of those waters. Bill me later.
But it's like, oh, here's a $200 item or a $600 item, but you only have to pay this much money per month. And it's a form of credit, but without using MasterCard, Visa, American Express, with their high end, they have specific rules. They have that the person accepting the payment has to follow, right? And so with all of those things, there's all these different payments now. So then you also have like Venmos, and you have PayPal, and you have all these different methods of payments. So are we headed that way? Absolutely. I think we are, but I don't think that, like, if you switch if you flip the switch right now, there's too many people that don't understand it, that it would not be very successful.
Yeah. And I'm going to say, reading this as it
COVID,
is,
nobody wants to touch money.
Yeah. Is our economy, not the world, is our economy ready? And I'm going to say no, but just like you said, it's getting there, because one of the things in doing some research that makes digital currency so attractive is that it's decentralized. So 0.1 Bitcoin, for example, is worth as much in America as it is in Egypt. It's just 0.1 Bitcoin. So you don't have to deal with the government controlled monies. Now there's hundreds of cryptos out there. Yeah, conversion rates.
Yeah. When currency crashes in a nation because, change of leadership or whatever, wars going on, whatever may happen in another country, then all of a sudden something that, like their amount of money is worth nothing, like literally nothing here in the United States. And yet 5 days ago, it might've been worth a good, like half of a dollar.
So here's the danger. Currency is always currency. If we move to a full digital grid, and I'm not saying we don't need to, but if we move to a full digital grid, what happens when the grid goes down?
Yeah, sure.
So
how do you do business?
How do you do business? Whether it's 3 rocks, let me trade my 3 sandstones for 1 obsidian. But assuming everything works out, I think that the world is it's already headed that way, but I think they need to take the hundreds of cryptocurrency, because there's hatching new ones all the time, and somehow, whether it's globally recognized, 3, 2, or just the 1, and have that be the international currency, almost like English is the global language. There has to be something, and I don't know, maybe it's Bitcoin, maybe it's something else, but I think. Yeah,
because there are a lot out there, but I agree with you. I mean, I think that's why there's a lot out there, is because people want to head in that direction. But I am with you, as I have not done a lot of research on that specific, I'm kind of like, I have other things I'd rather look at.
Yeah. I'll send you something my nomadic friend sent me. I call him Johnny the Nomad. We watched it the other night, so it got a little more educated on it. So I think I'm close. I'm closer in one way, and my wife is still kind of like, because she's was born and bred and raised and currently resides in the banking world.
Right. I was going to say banking, right? In the banking industry, and the banking industry doesn't necessarily want something like that, because then that does away with a lot of what their business is, because they do deal in different foreign currencies. You go to the bank and when I go on a trip, I have to order my money, or I have to go in and, change out some money so that I have, the local currency and be ready to travel. And to be able to pay your visa or whatever to get in and out of the country.
Right.
So, you have to do business with them. And then there's a fee that goes along with that and so on and so forth. And I mean, truly, banking has already changed and is way more digital. I mean, if you really think that your money is actually sitting at your bank,
yeah, it's all digital. Yeah, it's
a
all
lot of this money is being moved.
It's all digital.
It's already being moved around digitally and whatnot. We don't have silver bars. They're out there, but I'm just saying your money isn't a silver certificate. It's not backed by a certain amount of silver or gold. It's money they print on paper. It's something they print. So
that's the thing. And I think most people know that, but there are some people who don't. If everyone if everybody who has a bank account at your local branch goes in and extracts all their money, they're going to run out of money.
Sure.
Really fast.
Because it's not there.
Because it's not there. Yeah.
It's not there. It's virtually there, but it's not there. It's like when you're a kid and you think you're going to be able to save that one special coin by putting it in your savings account. It doesn't work that way. It's not like a piggy bank. You don't actually have the actual physical money there. So
yeah, I like how in the old movies where you go to the branch and you'd force them to open up that giant door and there's just like stacks of money,
piles of cash.
Just piles of cash. Well, I think that's all the questions we're going to ask today.
Okay. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for being such a big supporter of the show. And
of course.
Thanks for being you.
Oh, thank you very much. I enjoy your show very much. I enjoy listening to your guests and hearing all of the different things that come up. I've learned so much. I have to say, I know it sounds crazy, but I knew nothing about wheel fitment and things like that. And I learned a lot of things from just listening to your show. So thank you.
Active listening. Later.
Have a good one. Bye.
I want to thank Catherine Cox again for being such a huge supporter of the show. And it was a good conversation having her come on and do the Q&A segment. If you want to be on the Q&A, just go ahead and hit me up, HardParkingPodcast@gmail.com, and we could talk about it. Make sure you join us on the Facebook page, Hard Parking Violations. It's a free page. I mean, it's just a Facebook group. Have a lot of fun. Over 160 members. You can support the show if you want. We do have a Patreon. We have, I think, $3, $5, $10 tiers. And the business supporters have an $8 tier. So if you want to join the Patreon, get access to all sorts of free stuff, including bonus audio, hit us up. It's all good. I want to give a special shout out to longtime show sponsor NSX Channel, who will no longer be with us moving forward. Nico, you've been there. I know you don't listen to the show that much, but Nico's been there from the very beginning with the Hard Parking Podcast. So much love to the NSX Channel on Instagram. I want to thank our new sponsor, Riot Zold, coming in and taking over the social media highlight of the week segment. Right Honda, of course, higher quality detail, booster bath, 4-wheel online, and tonguetreats.com. Special thanks to our Patreon business supporter, Kuya Automotive, out of Winter Garden, Florida. If you're a business out there and you want to be a part, join the Patreon business tier and get your special thanks at the end of every episode, because it means a lot to me. If you're just a regular listener out there, you mean a lot to me too. Reach out, send me an email, tell a friend about the show, get them involved, Hard Parking Podcast. Follow me on Instagram at NA2NSX or JTravels, JHAE_travels. Hit us up on Facebook, Hard Parking Podcast. Check out the YouTube page, Hard Parking Media. I can't grow in any avenue unless you tell the world how great this show is. So let's do this. Let's grow this thing together. As a lot of you guys know, my daily driver is a 2007 Infiniti FX35 Sport. It's about time I put some money into it. Can't just drive the NSX around all the time looking nice. Want to get some wheels. For over a decade, 4-Wheel Online has been bringing the best truck accessories and truck parts to enhance the appearance and performance of all trucks and SUVs. They're dedicated to providing an extensive range of upgrades that will match any maker model on the road. Their truck products cover everything you need for a custom look and added functionality. I was talking about a wheel and tire package. Head over and use a configuration tool. They carry all the major brands of wheels and tires, so go get outfitted today. Visit them at 4-Wheel Online. That's 4-Wheel, singular, online. Are you tired of your dog losing its cool in a thunderstorm or fireworks? You might want to look at tongue treats. TongueTreats.com. High anxiety relief, pain relief, inflammation relief. It's a direct connection between the tongue and the brain. Doesn't waste time going down to the stomach, where it gets broken down, enters the bloodstream, then to the brain eventually. By then, little Izzy, my dog, has been hiding under the house for like 20 minutes. The Tongue Treat CBD strips provide rapid results for your pet with the right amount of CBD, which is not psychoactive. It's important to test and verify your pet is getting the proper dosage. A single strip should be enough. Have doubts? There's certified analysis from a lab available on the website. Think about it. Efficacy and economy. Tongue Treats.
Shut up!